Hey y'all, this is your girl Sonja, and welcome back to She Say Sports. Today I have with me founder of the barbershop, Mr. BJ Jones. Hi BJ, how are you today?
Hey, Sonya, how you doing?
I am doing well, doing well. What's been going on with you, man?
Just enjoying the spring season, the football that we're having.
I know.
Getting an opportunity to hopefully get a chance to see Alabama A&M because I've only seen one game of theirs. But just seeing how crazy the spring can be, enjoying the platform and the exposure that our schools and our student athletes are getting via ESPN.
Right, you're getting ahead of me. Don't go there because I got questions to ask.
Okay.
You're going too fast. You're going too fast. So we're gonna get to that. But before we get to that, how's your mom, your daughter, and everything? You know, we haven't talked in a while.
Yeah, my mom is doing great. She has improved tremendously. She is back to her old self.
So what does that mean?
So she's actually traveling tomorrow to Texas, Arlington,
awesome.
Texas.
Okay.
So she'll be out there with her sister for a little while, and my daughter's good. They're back in in-person classes, so she's good to go.
Awesome. And for the ones that don't know, BJ's mom, she battled COVID-19 earlier, like in last summer, was that?
Yeah, she was in the hospital from August 15th all the way up until November the 19th.
Wow. And so it is such a blessing. I'm thankful that she's back to herself and traveling now. And, you know, we must take this pandemic. It's still a pandemic, everyone. We have to take this serious and you know, continue to wash your hands, wear your mask, and just, you know, do what you need to do to stay safe. So that's a blessing. So you are already getting into it. As you know, we're in the midst of the SWAC spring season. And, you know, we've had a few hiccups due to COVID. A few weeks before the season started, Alcorn decided to opt out of the spring season due to COVID concerns. However, it's being reported they are still working out and practicing. A few weeks ago, Mississippi Valley postponed their game against JSU due to COVID concerns. And this past week, Prairie View has done the same thing. BJ, with Alcorn opting out and postponement of games for Mississippi Valley and now Prairie View, do you think more SWAC teams will follow suit?
I think if you have teams that are infected, that test positive, you'll see. I mean, of course, they will have to, you know, shut it down. But
right.
So far, Alcorn has been the only ones that have opted out. Everyone else, you know, has basically said that we're going to push through it.
Right.
So you're hoping that we don't have any more positive cases. That everyone is following protocols. But with this virus, man, you just never know.
That's true. That is true. And, you know, just hoping we'll be able to finish this abbreviated season. I mean, it's, you know, we're almost like halfway done for the most part. So I'm hoping we can, you know, like you said, stay safe and no more positive COVID, you know, what is it?
No more positive COVID tests.
Yeah, positive. I did. Okay, I said it right. Positive COVID tests. There's so many different, you know, vaccinations and everything. So yeah, that's great. So, BJ, with what you've seen in the last few weeks, who are your three top picks and why?
As far as the three top teams?
Yes, top teams.
Arkansas Pine Bluff is number one.
What
they've done, it's not easy to go into Mumford Stadium and beat Southern. That's
right.
Something that has not been done by anyone since early 2018. So they get all the credit in the world for that. And then the way in which they went to Grambling and handled Grambling, I don't care if Grambling is down. Grambling doesn't get their eyes beat out at home.
I couldn't believe it.
It just doesn't happen. So I think Arkansas Pine Bluff is definitely right there, number one. Number two, I know we only have a small sample size, but I like what Alabama A&M did against South Carolina State. The thing to keep in mind, that South Carolina State team that we saw this year, they have the name South Carolina State, but their roster overturned a lot. They lost 16 starters from 2019, so that's a new team. But I like Alabama A&M there. Prairie View is going to go right there at number 3. Unbeaten, got the win over Texas Southern, got the win over Grambling. 2 hard-fought games, but they found a way to get it done. So if there was a top 3, it would go with them, and then I have, a group right there, that you could interchange in the third spot between Alabama State, Southern, and Jackson State.
Okay. And do you see any adjustments that can be made for those teams that you mentioned?
Yes. I think for Arkansas Pine Bluff, they have improved defensively. They will need to continue to improve defensively and be more effective on, running the football. With Alabama A&M, we just don't know. But one of the things they will have to do is cut down on the turnovers. And then with Prairie View does just enough to win. They won't.
What do you mean?
Defensively, they've been solid. Offensively, they're still finding their way.
Okay.
So that offense has to catch up to that defense.
Gotcha. Okay. Understood. So even though, we've only had, maybe 4, are we in the 4th or 5th week?
We are in week 5. We're actually on week 6.
Yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. So we're going into week 6. I know it's still a little early, but do you have any predictions on whom will probably make it to the championship game?
If
what you've seen already.
If Arkansas Pine Bluff can get a win on Saturday, they would almost assure themselves a spot in the championship game. They would wrap up the Western Division. And then in the Eastern Division, we won't know for a couple of weeks because even though Jackson State and Alabama State has played, Jackson State still has to play Alabama A&M. Alabama A&M still has to play Alabama State. So we don't know how that one's going to work out. So I think it's going to be between those 3 teams.
Okay, gotcha. And, with the talent you've seen this spring season, do you think if Alcorn had not opted out, that they would still be the top team to beat?
Oh, yes, absolutely. With Alcorn, what they had coming back and the talent that football team has, they would be competing for another SWAC championship. I have no doubt in my mind.
Right, okay. So with Bethune-Cookman and FAMU joining the SWAC officially in the upcoming fall season, will these teams bring more competition to the SWAC, and why?
Oh, yes, both of those teams will. If you look at FAMU and what they've done over the last 2 years, FAMU is one of the top teams in black college football.
Right.
It was because of sanctions that FAMU did not go to the Celebration Bowl back in 2019. They beat North Carolina A&T. They only lost one conference game, and that was Bethune-Cookman. Without sanctions, they won the MEAC. And then the year before, they were a pick 6 away from representing the MEAC in the Celebration Bowl. So FAMU is one of the top teams in black college football. And Bethune-Cookman, they compete for titles. They're always a game or 2 off, but they've won 9 straight against FAMU.
Gotcha. Okay. And what's so funny to me, and both you and I, we're in SWAC Central, so it tickles me how, us, the SWAC that's always been SWAC, when Bethune-Cookman or FAMU say something, they shut them down completely. Be quiet, Neo. I guess they calling themselves pledging them or whatever. But, have you seen those posts when FAMU or Bethune say something and they trying to get into the conversation and they shut them down? Have you seen that?
Yes, I've seen it, and I get a little, I get a little chuckle out of it. But I think once the pigskin starts flying and those teams are playing games, people are
Then,
going to see how good they really are.
right. They give them heck. I kid you not. It tickles me. I posted today, and they were like, be quiet. This has nothing to do with you. And I'm like, of course, the girly in me is like, that's not right. I mean, they're part of the SWAC, not officially, but they are a part of the SWAC now, but they're not having it. So I will be glad to see what happens when the fall comes and they join us and just see how everything goes. It's going to be very, very interesting. So,
Yes.
so BJ, with all the talk and buzz around JSU and the SWAC, with the coming of Coach Prime, what are your thoughts?
I think Coach Prime is adjusting to being in the SWAC, and I think that the SWAC is adjusting to him being here.
Right.
Obviously, he didn't like what Alabama State did after the game on Sunday, but when you tell your team to dance, and you'll take the 15-yard penalty when you're on the sideline against Mississippi Valley, dancing to "I Got the Devil Under My Feet." When you do those things, people don't forget that you were up against Edward Waters throwing the ball. You were up against Mississippi Valley throwing the ball and going for two. People aren't going to forget that. And if that small gesture on Saturday ruffled his feathers, imagine what it's going to be like in the fall.
Ooh,
when we are going, all the fans are back and the bands are there in the student sections. He might have a downright aneurysm.
Well, see, he's going to have to learn the SWAC. This is what we do.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand he was saying we need to keep it about the kids or whatever. I get that. However, I get what you're saying too. You're absolutely right. I mean, it's tick for tat in the SWAC. It really is. And we have been doing this for decades. It's nothing new. It's not about him. It's just about what we do. And so he has to learn the culture, I think. He has to understand that this is the culture. And, I mean, I get it. We're on TV and, we always, to be honest, we've always kind of been on TV. But, like BET, ABC, with the Grambling and Southern during Thanksgiving. It's different. We've always kind of been seen, but I know it's a little different now. But he has to learn that this is SWAC culture and not take it personally. I actually chuckled when I saw it. But that's just what we do. I mean, can't take it personal. So, I guess the attention is not, it's good and bad in some ways, but it's really been doing some good because we've moved from SWAC games being televised on ESPNU and ESPN3 to ESPN2, and on April 3rd and April 10th, we'll be on ESPN. Those games will be JSU versus Southern. I will not be talking to you that day at all. That's on the 3rd. And then on the 10th, it'll be JSU versus Alabama A&M. So what are your thoughts on that?
I'm glad to see the conference, those games moving up to ESPN and the conference getting that big spotlight. I wish that we were, open so people can kind of see the pageantry of the Jackson State Southern games. The Jackson State Southern. The Southern Jackson State game is one of the biggest
rivals.
But it's also one of the biggest secrets because usually we don't have television for that game.
Oh, that's true. You're right.
So a lot of people don't know how big of a rivalry and how intense the game is.
Right.
So, it's one of the better rivalries in college football, not just SWAC, but in college football, period. So have that on display, that is big. That's huge. And, to have that Jackson State Alabama A&M game on display, that's big as well. So, I think it's a great thing for the conference. I think it's a great thing for the student athletes, and I mean it's good for Jackson State and those kids there.
So let me ask you this: do you think because okay, it's spring football, do you think they're putting us on ESPN2 and ESPN because it's really nothing else on? Do you think it'll continue when it goes to the fall football?
No. I think we might get a slot here or there. The biggest thing is that the sports calendar right now, you're in that doldrum season. Usually what you will get right now is college baseball. Football in the South is what drives everything. So having that, and then and having a name like Deion Sanders and what he means and the eyeballs that bring along, you pair those two up. That's why we're getting those spots. But I would say, yes, you have to give credit to Commissioner Dr. Charles McClellan.
Yes.
Because he said that he was going to work on this and this was going to happen, where we're going to put our products on the brightest stage, and we're not going to just take what people give us.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that he has been the hero and the unsung hero, if you will, because the initial reaction, people who don't know or aren't aware, they're going to go to Deion Sanders, but no, it was Commissioner Dr. Charles McClellan.
Absolutely, I totally agree. Totally agree. He's done an amazing job throughout this pandemic, starting last March, April, when he added Bethune and FAMU and getting sponsorships, and the SWAC has been highlighted since last year. It's during this pandemic, so he has done an amazing job. I totally agree with you. Kudos to him and his staff. BJ, what have you missed most about SWAC football since we didn't have a 2020 fall season?
The traveling, the tailgating, the interacting with all the fans, the bands, the atmosphere, just everything that goes hand in hand with being around this conference and playing in this conference. I missed it all. I tell people all the time, man, it is a blessing and a privilege and an honor to have played in this conference and to have been around it for so long. And I'll never take it for granted again, because I swear that season that we didn't have it, I was miserable.
Me too.
Yeah, it was bad. So it's something I definitely won't take for granted again.
It's amazing how you're right. How we, because before the pandemic happened, I had already told my friends 2019 homecoming. I was like, I'm doing something else homecoming next year. I'm not coming to homecoming. So they was like, girl, whatever. I was like, no, I'm not. And little did I know I was speaking life to a situation that I didn't know was going to be going on. But I wanted, I was like, I'm going to go somewhere else. I may go to either Hampton, Tennessee State, CSU, or Howard homecoming. I want to do something different. And when I say I was so sad that we didn't have a season, and the first game, even when we played Edward Waters, and when the team, came out on the field, I literally almost had a tear. I was just so happy to see some SWAC football. So I'm like you. I miss the tailgating. I miss the bands. I miss the games. I miss seeing my friends and just reunions that we have every year. I miss those things. So I'm looking forward to our first game in Miami against FAMU Labor Day weekend. I'm so excited. And that'll be like a mini reunion for us, depending on how this pandemic, I'm hoping it'll just kind of like get a little better as we go through the months. We got 5 months, so I hope they get it together. But before I let you go, I wanted to move on to some basketball. So, BJ, last week a video went viral showing the NCAA men's weight room versus the NCAA women's weight room. And it was definitely on pretty much both ends of the spectrum. The guys had equipment galore, all types of equipment, whereas the women had a few dumbbells, and that was it. Then another video went viral like a day or so later showing what the women were eating versus what the men were eating. The women had a plate with mystery meat, veggie medley, and a starch, some mashed potatoes, while the guys had a buffet of different meats and veggies. With women college basketball being a very intricate part of the NCAA's March Madness tournament, what are your thoughts on the videos and the stark difference between how the women are treated compared to the men?
Number one, in this country, we hate women.
Say it again, I'm sorry.
I said number one, in this country, we hate women.
Mm-hmm.
We like the idea of women, but if you look at it, you look at how women are treated in the world, taken away from sports, we hate women. Look, the NCAA could have done better by this. They chose not to.
Right.
And they didn't think that they didn't think that no one was going to call out about it. It was more than just the amenities that the men were given as opposed to the men. Even from the COVID testing, women were given a different COVID test that was known for basically not being reliable. And they gave the men the most expensive test. And the message that sends is that these men are more important to you. They're more valuable to you. The thing about the NCAA tournament is this. People will say, well, the men make money. Guess what? The women make money in the NCAA tournament too. The NCAA sold the rights for the women's Final Four as well as other NCAA championships for $500 million to ESPN. So, yes, the women make money. When you're in the men's NCAA tournament, every round that you win, you earn what we call a unit. That unit of money goes back to your conference and is divided amongst the schools. The women get no payout. The women get no payout, despite that that the NCAA sold those rights to ESPN and are making millions of dollars off the women's tournament. The women get no payout. It just goes back to how we view women. The NCAA could have done differently. They could have done better. They just chose not to. Because when they were embarrassed, they came in and fixed it. If you fixed it that quick, you could have got it right from the jump. You just chose not to.
You chose not to. And what's amazing to me, the video with the weight room, they were saying there was not enough room for the weight or more equipment in the room for the ladies, but it was probably like a 2,000 square foot room.
Right.
I'm exaggerating, but it was pretty big. Did you see it?
Mm-hmm. I did.
It was huge, and all of a sudden you're able to fit everything in there. I think it's just like the sports industry is still trying to just be about men and a man's world, and we have to get out of that. It's not. Women are here to stay. They're going to play sports. And, I mean, you have to treat them equally. It was unbelievable. When I saw that meat, whatever that was that they gave them, that was ridiculous. That was absolutely ridiculous. I wouldn't feed that to my enemy. And it's just, they have to do better. So they got called out on it. I guarantee you it won't happen again. And I hope other programs, take heed and do what they need to do, because they're probably doing the same thing at different universities. They're probably doing the same thing. So hopefully this was an eye-opener for all of them as well. But I'm glad the young lady did what she did and, shedded light on something that needs to be handled. And it was. So that's awesome. Well, BJ, it is always a pleasure to have you on the show. Please tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media.
You can find me at Inside HBCU FBall on Twitter, BJ Jones on Facebook, or Inside HBCU Football on Facebook. You can follow what I do, HBCU Game Day. Also, you can catch me on the Carlos Brown Show on Saturdays.
What's the time on Saturdays?
Saturdays, the Carlos Brown shows runs from 10 to 12.
Okay.
So you can usually catch me on there. And then on Sundays, you catch me in Sweat Sports Central, 8 o'clock Central. And you can catch me on Saturday mornings with Dr. Kenyatta Cavill, Mike Washington, and Charles Bishop.
Speaking of Charles and Carlos, well, before I go into that, let me give my handles. You guys, you can follow me on She Say Sports on Facebook and She Say Sports 23 on Instagram. But speaking of that, I really need to bring you, Carlos, back to the show when we play Southern next week.
Why you want to do that?
You know why? You know why. You, Carlos, Southern, me, Charles, Jackson State. I mean, it's a rival, baby. I mean, it's a thought. I'm gonna see what the other guys got to do, and if you're interested, that would be really nice. Just go, do a little history with the bands, with the team, and the one I'm going to talk about, that 2010 beautiful win we had against y'all. So
that was one of the last ones, wasn't it?
You know what?
I mean, there ain't been many.
You know what? I'm trying to start already. That's okay. It's cute. I'm going to let you have it because we're going to beat y'all April 3rd. But it's good.
Lord.
Are you coming to the game?
I sure am.
Oh, I'll see you. I may even have something at the house for you guys. Is Carlos coming too?
I don't know. I'll ask him.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll talk about that. I'm gonna see what y'all got going on and see if I can squeeze that in so we can have that. That'll be fun. But I'm not gonna hold you any longer. So, guys, that's my show for today. Until next time, this is Sonja with She Say Sports, and I'll see you on the radio.